so you can double live stream. I want to test that and see how it works.
So we're live. We can go ahead and share it. We'll be starting in a few minutes, folks. Just getting everything set up.
How's the speed? How's the connection?
What do you mean?
There's no lagging? Is everything good?
I mean, I haven't even seen it yet. Give me 1 second. Usually there is a little bit of lag when you watch it on Facebook.
Yeah, I don't see where you're at. It's not showing up yet on your page.
It's on. Remember, it's on the DLP page.
That's what I went to.
I see it right here, bro.
Me no see. Me must click your page.
It is only about like a 10-second lag. I just shared it. I shared it onto my personal page.
You must click your page. Myself. There you go. All right.
All right, let's get started. Welcome back, everybody. We have a new time. This is Imran. I'm a Wallet digital consultant, and I'm here with Yusuf Chowdhury, digital marketing strategist. And we're going to continue with our series, SEO the series. It's going to be at a new time. It's been advertised to be on Sundays, but we're moving now to Thursday nights. We're going to try this 10 p.m. slot and see how it performs, and then we'll make some adjustments if we need to. But today, we're going to try to keep this as short as possible based on the late time. But we're going to be discussing what are the four essential SEO principles. So, Mr. Chowdhury, how you doing?
Pretty good, my man. I don't know if we're gonna make it short. I guess we should make it longer.
Well, that's relative, you know. That's just all relative.
Right.
Relative terminologies, my friend.
All right. How is everyone doing this evening?
They're saying they're doing fine.
All right. So let's see. What's the topic for the night?
The 4 essential SEO principles.
Okay. All right. So I guess we did cover a lot in the past so-called 3 weeks, right? We talked about the definition of search engine, why it's important. Then we talked about the difference between the on-page and off-page, and how the voice search matters, right? So today, and again, if y'all have any questions, feel free to throw those questions at us. So today's subject going to be on what are the principle, or what are the so-called 4 important principle when it comes to Google's ideas when it comes to how to implement this so-called strategy, right? So these are mostly conceptual, so you have to understand the ideas behind it so you can apply it on mainly your website. So the first thing is called making sure that your website have some type of authority. Okay, the website to have an authority, that means what makes a website to be an authority site. It could be .gov, .org, or a site that has so many relevant backlinks pointing back to it, so many conversations happening or taking place within the social media channels, right? So that gives the site some type of, okay, and so that's number 1. Number 2, I would say this is also very important, and this goes back to how relevant is your each individual pages within the website. When I say relevant, I'm talking about the content, how relevant it is to your target audience. Is it covering what it's supposed to cover? Is it talking about what it's supposed to talk about? Is it addressing the questions and the answers of your target audience? What are those content? Are the content relevant? If I'm gonna talk about commercial real estate, or the content talks about commercial real estate. You know what I mean? So that's on the front end. So with the relevancy of the content and the images and the theme and whatnot, you also have to take into consideration the on-page SEO factors, which is the title tag, the meta tag, and schema tag, and so forth. Okay, so the first thing is the authority, right? And the second thing is the relevancy of these pages. So when you look at relevancy, you're also looking at it from your customer's point of view, or what is important to your customer, or what is important to your target audience. Does that make sense? Because you don't want to just build the page or website and dump a lot of content and expecting, things to happen, right? Without a clear direction. Like, what really do you want your target audience to do? How do you want them to find these content, the material relevant to what they're searching for? Okay. At the same time, how is it going to be relevant to Google itself? Make sense? So that's authority, relevancy. And I would think the third option, the third principle, the trust factor. So when we talk about the trust, you can look at the link itself. Is it secure? Does it have the HTTPS on the footer of the website? Do you have pages like privacy policy, legal disclaimer, terms of service, ADA compliancy, right? If you have any kind of award logos or institutions or certification that kind of put you under the trust from the perspective of credibility, testimonies, right? The content are great. The backlinks are coming from highly reputable websites. So that creates some sort of trust. You can also add to that the conversation that takes place within the social channels about your business, about your products, about your service. Okay, especially the testimonies. You know what I mean? So we have authority, we have relevancy, and we have the trust. What do you call it? Factors, right? The trust factors.
Let me ask you real quick about the trust factor. So you mentioned the SSL or the HTTPS. If a website does not have that, obviously a viewer or a visitor may not feel comfortable visiting that website. But does Google penalize websites for not having that SSL certificate?
I wouldn't say it will penalize what's going to happen right now. I mean, they kind of forced it several years ago that every site must have the HTTPS. And if you don't, what is going to happen? Users that don't have an updated Chrome browser or Firefox, they're going to get a red screen saying that this website is not secure. You shouldn't visit it. So that means you're going to lose some of this traffic. Okay, that's number one. Number two, when it comes to like preference, of course, I mean, as I mentioned several times before, there are more than 200 plus, maybe 1,000 factors for ranking website. So Google will look at other venues. They're going to look at other areas to help you to rank. But right now, I mean, HTTPS, even if you don't look at it from the Google point of view, you have to look at it from the customer point of view, because if a customer finds a site that says not secure, and you have some sort of transactional page, like, buy the product and whatnot, it can be a little bit, what you call it, it will probably put the audience not on a comfortable spot, right? So right now, it's highly recommended that you should really have it with HTTPS, and you can get most of it from your hosting providers. When you buy the domain name and the hosting services, a lot of them gives you the HTTPS for free, and some of them will actually charge you, and on a yearly basis.
And then you were mentioning earlier, and I know we discussed this a bit in some of our previous series, but having like meta tags, alt image descriptions, how important are those particulars when it comes to ranking in Google?
That is still very important. It's been going on since day one. It's still relevant. If you look at the Google Webmaster Tools guideline, and they still specifically tell you, like, when you build a site, when you upload images, you got to put these tags. Why? Because you are trying to explain or let the search engine like Google know what are these pages for, how they're relevant, how they are going to be indexed properly, how they're going to be indexed by the bots without losing any traction, right? So you have to follow those. It's like it's one of those things like, building a house with a blueprint. If your blueprint is not properly built, it can eventually cause an issue. Make sense?
Yeah.
So those are very, very important. So that's why the on page, it's at least the most important and basic things that you have to have it on every single website. When it comes to off-page SEO, that's different strategies you can implement, like 100 ways of doing off-page SEO. Most of the ways you have to make sure they're ethical, they follows the Google's guideline or the Bing's guideline, right? Now, so when we talked about the four principles, we talked about authority, relevancy, we talked about the trust factor on the website. So you have to think from the perspective of what makes my website have an authority, what makes my website or the page is relevant, right? What makes it have some sort of trust factors. And the last one, how you need to implement the best user experience. I would say this one here is one of the most ignored and never talked about among the circles in detail, especially among the businesses. Like when it comes to like web development, web design, or search engine, user experience is so important because that's your website visitors, right? If they are having a good experience, they're able to see and find what they're looking for easily. They're able to see your website on the mobile device easily. Phones are clickable, maps are easy to navigate, right? So you do have to think about your customers' experience, okay? Because that can give Google a signal that whoever is visiting the website and it's relevant, but at the same time, they're spending more time reading blogs, sharing it, spending some time on the site. They're not leaving quickly. They're navigating several other pages. So that gives a good signal to the search engine, like as if somebody really going there and spending some time to basically get a lot of benefit from this. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
So these are some of the four principles, when we talked about it today, about having authority for the website, making sure all the pages are relevant with it from the content perspective for your target audience, making sure that all the on-page SEO is done properly for every single page. If you have a commercial real estate page, in the title tag going to say something like San Antonio Commercial Real Estate Provider. And the meta tag description will say, if you're looking for the best commercial real estate agency or company, whatever, we provide the best benefit, click the link above, something like that. You know what I mean? The images must explain what those images are to the search engine by adding the alternative text, or for people that are blind, visually impaired, or people with disability. You know what I mean? When it comes to trust, the HTTPS, any kind of award, logos, certifications, the bottom footer pages, legal disclaimer, ADA compliance, terms of service, privacy policy, or just, actual testimonies from Google business pages or Yelp and Facebook and whatnot, because that builds that trust factor, right? And of course, the user experience, you got to make sure the website is very fast, mobile friendly, and whatnot.
Okay. So do we have another principle left?
I would say on an open case, there was a very popular terminology that's been flowing around within the search engine community, and it's called EAT. That doesn't literally mean eat. It stands for expertise, authority, and trust. So you're going to probably hear this sort of lingo from time to time. What are they talking about? What is this EAT for SEO? It just means expertise, authority, and trust. So how can we combine these three elements under this subject of expertise and authority and trust? For example, having a real name for your domain. If it's the name of if it's the name of a company, then your domain name has the name of the company, right? Your website has a contact information under the about page, whether it's a physical address, phone number, email, fax, and whatnot, right? You do not use excessive, unnatural internal links on the sidebar or the footer. That means the way you set up the link, like you're linking one page to another, is strategic. Like if I go to your about page, I'm reading about the company, and you mentioned several services, and I can click on the service word, the hyperlink, and it will take me to the service page in detail, for example. So that's strategic. You're not just haphazardly putting link back and forth everywhere. It's not too excessive. That's what I mean by don't make it unnatural, make it very natural, right? Don't make like some content sites out there, they put so many ad space, like you're reading the content and the ad pops up every few paragraph on the side, on the top. You don't want to do that. Okay, if you have a contributor, if you have people that guest post on your website, make sure you have the actual name, not a fake name or pin name, because in order for trust, you have to have an actual person's name with their social media channels, with their Facebook account, Twitter account, and whatnot. So again, that builds trust and credibility, right? So you have to list the editors and the contributors, and not just use pen names. It has to be real name. And when you write content with evidence and facts and resources, it is very considered a good practice if you can credit or point the sources where you got this information from, right? If you have an e-commerce website or any type of site that takes some sort of transactional uh, activities on the website, whether pay or checkout and whatnot, then you got to make sure that you have some sort of policy pages for refunds, returns, delivery information, and whatnot. Make sense? So these some of the ideas that falls under the EAT, the expertise and authority and trust, because you have to look at the website from these elements, because your goal at the end of the day is to attract the target audience. So when that target audience attracts to your website, then you have to focus on the data, you have to focus on the conversion, you have to focus on how you built the site to make the visitor put some sort of action, whether it's for a service or the product. Make sense?
Makes sense. We actually got, it's interesting because on the streaming side, I don't see the questions coming up, the comments, but on my Facebook app, I see the questions coming up. So we're gonna have to troubleshoot this afterwards.
Okay,
but
what are the questions?
Well, I think you essentially just answered some of it, but Charles is asking, how do you establish trust and authority with your site's visitors in order for a better conversion?
Beautiful question. I mean, when it comes to trust, for example, there are many. Like, first of all, the information on the website is legit. That means I can find out who's the owner of the website. I can Google them. I can look up the social channels. I can see there are testimony from actual people, not like a fake people, right? Of course, you have the contact information, you have the HTTPS, you have the legal disclaimer, all those on the footer. And also the content, the more content you put out there within your website and sharing them on the social channels, whether it's YouTube, Periscope, Facebook, LinkedIn, that also builds an authority because you're constantly providing a content that is super valuable, highly impactful, beneficial to your target customer. So if you stay consistent, that also builds trust and credibility because you just didn't start yesterday and making a big claim, but the fact that you're providing value to your target audience, whether that could be through live streaming, podcasting, YouTube videos, blogging, social media updates, as long as you're consistent and you're helping, that can definitely, create some type of authority and trust to your target audience.
I was just looking at a friend's website. He asked me to take a look at it. He redesigned his website. He's a strength and conditioning coach, and the design is really nice. As soon as you go to the website, it loads quick, very simple. First header, not congested, not too many different options, crisp, and then you scroll to the next section, and it tells you a little bit of information about him with a nice picture. So it very quickly establishes credibility on why he's a qualified and competent trainer. And then the third block or banner, you have the different training options. Like how can you train? There's personal training, there's training for athletes, there's virtual training. Then you select your levels. But then the testimonial section, I believe, on his website is very effective. There's 8 windows, and as soon as you hover over those icons or those images, it gives you the name of the person who's giving the testimonial. Okay, Jiu-Jitsu black belt competitor, karate and Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Again, another Jiu-Jitsu black belt, personal trainer and massage therapist, MMA competitor, Jiu-Jitsu black belt and state trooper, high school baseball player, and Jiu-Jitsu competitor. So his website is very nice and simple. It's like nice image, why the guy is a qualified trainer.
And no stock photos, right? These are all real.
No, this is the website. Man, he did a great job, and I know him. I'm sure he did this by himself.
I looked at it. I don't know if he showed me this before.
It's the same one, but he's redesigned it. He's done a rebranding. I'll share it with you afterwards. But I think he did a nice.
Because we give the feedback to some of the stuff that we talked about. He can adjust.
Yeah, this was the one that you took a look at. I think, I don't know when it was, 3-4 months ago.
Yeah.
But he's done a great job with this. So I'm gonna. He doesn't want to make it public yet, but we'll maybe in one of our future episodes we'll go over his website.
Dissected. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So cool, man. I think next. I mean, obviously we don't have to wrap up here, but just to give people a little idea of what's to come. Let me open up the page. So we're gonna have next week. We're gonna look at what are the Google factors, what is a keyword, how to perform useful keyword research. So essentially, this series is about beating you up in terms of SEO.
Yeah.
So you're probably going to get more information than you bargained for and more information that you wanted. But by the end of this series, you should know a lot about SEO and how SEO works with web design, UX, ranking in Google, ranking in other search engines, etc. So anything else, Yusuf, that you want to mention?
Well, yeah, that's about it. If y'all have any question, feel free to send your question at the digital learning partners, or you can leave it to our DMs or in the comment section. We'll be more than happy to get back to you guys answering these questions, especially if y'all have a website that you want us to look at it, run some SEO analysis, give feedback. We'll be more than happy to do that for you.
Yes, we will. So, Yusuf, as always, thank you, my brother. And for all our late viewers, thank you guys for joining in, even though it's very late. And this is more than likely going to be our new time. So we'll see you guys next Thursday at 10.
And before you go, let's talk about a little bit few things, because I'm noticing the Facebook captioning is really kind of crappy, you know. So when the video is done, you might want to go back or have your team go back and adjust the captioning, because they look so awful. And yeah, they look so weird. But for you guys who are tuning in, if y'all enjoyed watching this session tonight and you got a lot of benefit from it, and if you have a business friends that can benefit from this, please go ahead and tag them or share them. We would highly appreciate that.
Absolutely. And also do make some suggestions if you want for what you would like for us to cover in upcoming series. We can cover a variety of different things when it comes to web design or digital marketing. So do make some suggestions and we can go ahead and do our best to cover those things. Thank you guys again. And until next week, we'll see you again.
All right, everybody. Y'all have a good night.
Take care, everybody.